States many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
And welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.TV. Thank you for joining me this Friday evening. I think what I'm first going to get into is kind of more related to the liberty movement or libertarian movement, the Free Stater movement up in New Hampshire. Many of you that follow it or know anything about it might have seen the recent Colbert report, and I'm going to get into that here in a minute. But before we really dive directly into that, there was one thing I wanted to bring up here. And this one was out of the Telegraph out of the UK. And it was about New Hampshire, up there where the Free State Project. And this is really more in line with what's actually going on up there. But it is out of the Telegraph, so it's titled "The Libertarians Planning to Take Over New Hampshire. Thousands vow to live free or die in the Granite State, which expects a mass migration of 20,000 libertarians to a state with a small population by early 2016. Nirvana for a libertarian in New Hampshire is a gay married couple guarding a stash of marijuana with the AK-47. I could live with that, said Ian Freeman, a leading light of the Free State Project and one of the pathfinders in a mass migration of like-minded people to the New England state. He left Florida and moved to New Hampshire to push the libertarian agenda in a state whose motto is live free or die, one of more than 1,500 to have done so. They have the first tranche of 16,000 people who have pledged to up sticks and make the state a beacon of liberty. Says here, depending on one's point of view, the Free State Project is just a logical extension of the libertarian tradition, or a bunch of disruptive anarchists who have taken a perverse pleasure in niggling the authorities. Mr. Freeman, 34, hosts a radio show which is syndicated around the country. He has also ran for governor on behalf of the New Hampshire Liberty Party. The Free State Project was founded more than a decade ago by Jason Sorens, who was studying for a doctorate at Yale at the time. His dream was to trigger a mass migration of 20,000 libertarians to a state with a small population by early 2016. The idea has to follow the example of was to follow the example of the Mormon migration to Utah in the mid-19th century. A number of states, including Maine, Wyoming, Vermont, and Alaska, were considered as candidates for the movement before supporters decided on New Hampshire. The Granite State, which has no sales tax or income tax, though property taxes are high, was the overwhelming choice. We want to create a society where the maximum role of government is the protection of life, liberty, and property, Mr. Freeman told the Telegraph. I like the idea of the natural law of supply and demand. I don't have a problem with laws which say you should not harm anybody else. But other laws should go. There are reams and reams of statutes which nobody can get through. I do have a real problem with the restrictions on alcohol and drugs. It would be easy to dismiss the libertarians as eccentric if there were not so many of them, and if the belief in small government did not resonate with a sizable chunk of American voters. It goes on to say Rand Paul, a possible Republican presidential candidate in 2016, has made little secret of sympathy with much of the libertarian agenda. His criticism of big government has led him to take positions which hardly chime with the traditional American conservative right. Mr. Paul has been fiercely critical of the police, voicing fears that it was in danger of becoming a paramilitary force. Inasmuch as there is a common thread among libertarians, it is an overarching dislike of authority. It has already led to a number of stunts generally designed to get up the nose of the city fathers. Perhaps the best known has been what the Free Staters call Robin Hooding. Now I'm going to get into that, but I've brought up the whole Robin Hooding before. It's one of those things that it's a type of activism, and I support what they do. And people go, they harass the parking test. Well, that's kind of a job you take where they're always harassed. What was that one show? I've seen a few episodes of it. I don't have cable, so I don't watch all these shows, but I've seen it before. Parking Wars. That's what it was. They get harassed all the time. That's nothing new. And the one thing is, at least these Robin Hooders are out there, they're out there putting coins in the parking meters. That way people aren't getting tickets. That way the city's not profiting off of you not putting your diamond or your nickel, turning it into $25 for some reason. It's idiotic. It's theft. It is really what it is, because then your tax money gets used to pay for the creation of all that. So you're getting double charged or triple charged or quadruple charged, depending on if you're getting tickets or how much you're parking and having to pay for it. I understand their reasoning behind it. That way the parking spots are cleared up. Well, maybe you shouldn't put your fancy buildings up and put more parking lot in. You won't have that big of a problem. it comes right back down to the bureaucracy of it all. They want their fancy buildings, fancy offices, but your parking spots should have to be, you should have to keep paying for that in taxes and in paying the machine. But a lot of you might know who Cantwell is, Chris Cantwell, and I'm not going to slam on him or nothing. I don't have any hate for the guy or nothing. He's well versed in libertarian ideas, and I think he has a pretty good concept on what liberty is. I don't technically agree with his comedy. It doesn't suit me. I believe his activism and comedy, that's more of an inside thing too with libertarians, with the anarcho-capitalist libertarian people. I think that what happened on the Cobalt report is kind of back to what I was saying. There's ways to present yourself, and I think too much opportunity was given to them to use material to put them in a negative light. And I'm going to play this little segment here and kind of get into, what really happened here. And they really try to make the Free State Project look pretty awful. And of course they edited the hell out of probably what video and audio they got. But I think what they were able to use from video and audio kind of played into making them kind of look like a bunch of idiots. And I've heard all three of these people speak. They're not dumb people, but they definitely made them look dumb, and I think they made it way too easy. And I think this is why, if you're going to be out there trying to spread the message, you have to try to keep refining yourselves. And these three have been in the public eye long enough to know what was going to happen. They were going to try and make them look stupid, and to really present it the best way to not give them as much material, even if it means not getting on there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of seeing too much into this. Maybe it still will make a positive impact on the Free State Project. Up there in Keene, New Hampshire. And I'll play this clip and we'll kind of get into it, and I'll have the phone lines open if you want to comment on this. But let me go ahead and cue this up. And this is a segment that Cobalt Report put on the Free Keene Squad. So let's go ahead and cue this up here. Make sure there's not going to be commercial. Okay, give it a second. That way you don't have to listen to a commercial.
Anyway, nation, I have long been a proponent of small government. As Thomas Jefferson said, that government is best which governs least, which means our Congress is headed toward perfection. Of course, America... Good job, Congress. We love you, Congress. Of course, America has a proud history of patriots standing up against government overreach. Where would we be if our founding fathers hadn't risen up against the tyranny of King George? Well, technically, we'd still be right here. That's how geography works. But we'd all be wearing absurd wigs instead of just Donald Trump. So tonight, folks, I am proud to profile the latest group of heroes who are attempting to give big government an overreach around. Jim?
America is under siege.
Our government is a tyranny, and it's out of control, and it must be stopped.
It really is government overreach, government gone amok.
This big brother has gotten a lot creepier than George Orwell thought it would ever get.
Tyranny is on the rise. But these brave patriots are fighting back. They are difference makers. Deep in the heart of New Hampshire lies the small town of Keene, a pretty place where the iron fist of authority has run amok. But help is on the way. Meet the Free Keene Squad. James Cleveland, a.k.a.
I think it's fair to say that I'm...
Now, since you can't see the video, just to go ahead and say he has a Robin Hood hat on, comes walking into the camera. In another part of this clip, a little bit further on, it shows him with a toy suction cup bow and arrow with the Robin Hood hat on. Chris Cantwell shows off his pistol, takes it off his hip and everything. These are things that kind of don't look good. I think were poor decisions.
The mastermind.
The mastermind. Garrett Ian.
I would identify myself as an anarchist.
The Afro-Kist. Chris Cantwell.
This is a .38 caliber revolver in a paddle holster, and I carry it on my hip.
The Enforcer. The Free Keene Squad has a clear plan to free the people of Keene. Tell them, Mastermind.
Free Keene necessarily isn't about freeing people per se.
A powerful vision for a better tomorrow. We confronted jackbooted city councilor Randy Filio for a response.
Free Keene claims that they're freeing Keene from something. Most of us that have lived here all of our lives really haven't figured that part out yet. And quite honestly, I don't think they've really figured it out yet. So if they ever do figure it out, I wish they'd give some of us a call.
Ring, ring, Randy. Better get the phone, because they figured it out.
Parking meters.
You heard him right. Parking meters.
If we're going to have a government, I feel like that they should do kind of the basics. They should defend life, liberty, and property. And I don't really see how issuing parking tickets meets any of those goals.
So Free Keene sprang into action by running ahead of meter maids and putting coins in the meters before they expire. They call it Robin Hooding. They've been filming themselves doing it for years and have posted hundreds of clips on the web, some of which have gotten multiple views.
I guess I'm the Robin Hood. I feel like I'm a superhero. I'm out there doing good for the community.
Which has the tyrannical city government shaking in their boots.
Probably the most controversial issue wasn't them plugging a meter, because quite honestly, none of us cared. What we cared about was they were following around the meter attendants and harassing them.
They're not harassing. They're annoying for liberty.
It's like, hey, why are you going that way? So we're going to follow you wherever you go. You're not going to get away with it today.
You take money from people by force. Why do you behave this way? I don't think that's an appropriate thing for people to do to each other.
I'd like you to stop following me around.
Nobody likes what you do. It's a crappy position to be in life.
Go back to your truck and drive away.
I'm doing my job.
Okay. Doesn't look like it.
Yes, this may look like the Free Keene Squad are being total dicks to innocent meter maids, but if that were true, why doesn't anyone stop them?
I find that when I carry a gun, people are very unlikely to hit me.
You can say almost what you want entirely to public officials. You can't threaten to kill them because that's like coercion, that's extortion, that's initiation of force.
I believe they really like what we're doing.
Of course, being New Englanders, the people of Keene are reserved in their displays of affection.
Why are you harassing her?
Get that away from me right now!
Get it out of my face.
Stop harassing people who are working.
You're nothing but a freeloading hobo.
You're an idiot.
Oh.
And the way you treat people shows me you're an idiot.
That's right. That's what you're going to do, is walk away.
No, you don't even want to.
I mean, obviously there's people that don't like what we're doing, and I'm fine with that. I think it's like, to me, it's like a balance. Like life is like the yin-yang. I feel like I'm the yang, I'm the white part, I'm the good part.
And every yin has its yang.
My name's Alan Givitz. I was a military police officer in the U.S. Army Reserves. In Iraq and Kuwait, it was about 15 months.
And this veteran needed a job.
I see an ad for the city of Keene for parking enforcement. And I kind of chuckled at first, and I said, yeah, okay, I'm going to go be a male meter maid. You sort of feel like you're kind of an animal in a cage, really.
Watch what you're doing. You're running into people.
No, I'm not. You're not going to get a break the entire day. This is never going to stop.
It was hell. Being called a thief, being called a liar, that sort of stung a little. But it didn't sting as much as, being called a coward. Definitely didn't hurt as bad as being called a racist because of my veteran status. I was told that I condone the droning of brown babies because I'm a veteran. That stung.
Okay, granted, these guys are a-holes, but they're a-holes for freedom. You're a veteran. I'm sure you can handle it. I mean, it's not worse than a rock.
And what was worse, serving in Iraq or being a meter maid in Keene? Boy. It's really a tough question.
Spoiler alert, it's Keene. Because after a year of abuse...
Yes, I quit.
And freedom won? That can't be right. Is that a typo?
Freedom can be messy. Freedom's not perfect. There are bad things that can happen when you give people freedom. I'm not going to deny that.
You cannot be free from an idea, so there can be no freedom from Free Keene for people who just live here.
They helped free me from my job, that's for sure.
So for fighting for their constitutional right to be total stains.
You're not going to get a break the entire day. This is never going to stop. Never going to stop.
The Free Keene Squad are tonight's difference makers. And just to be clear, are huge douchebags.
So that was the Free Keene Squad, according to the Code Board report. And, this is exactly why, I think that they should have been more aware of how this was going to be used to make them look stupid. And it definitely did a good job. And I don't know if it's going to attract people to the whole Free State Project. The Free State Project has already distanced themselves away from Cantwell. And, I understand, Cantwell does his own thing, has his own following. We all advocate and express our love for freedom in different ways. And I don't tend to agree with his ways, but I'm also not going to sit there and bash him. If someone decides that's someone that they want to listen to, good luck to, everybody, has their own way and path. And, he's a self-proclaimed comedian and has, people that like what he does. And, good luck to him. And I'm not here to try to break anybody down, but I do think that this is definitely not a good way to present freedom and liberty in the whole movement up there in Keene. And hopefully it doesn't, create a shying away from that whole movement, because they are close with 16,000 who have signed, and I think that's even up now. but wanting to reach 20,000 by 2016 and have a mass migration. When they reach that 20,000, that's when everybody that signed it will then move to New Hampshire, and that's supposed to be 2016 is what they've been planning on. I don't know. What do you think of this? I've even heard people say that, you know, well, it was on the Colbert Report, so, you know, people that are watching it might, you know, not be smart enough to know the difference anyways, or, you know, I've heard some bashing that way. I don't know. What's your opinion? 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Feel free to call in. You know, the whole Robin Hooding thing, you know, the whole parking meter thing, it is a scam, and I do think that there are more important things to fight, but that is a level of activism that they've been pretty successful at. And, you know, the city might say, oh, it's not them putting coins in the mirror that makes us mad. Well, no, it's not. It's that the tickets aren't getting wrote. They don't mind the nickels and dimes and quarters, but the $25 ticket or, you know, whatever it is, that might be a little bit more interesting. And I'm sure that they've actually cut into the revenue intake over parking tickets. When you follow the meter maids around and you put coins in before they can get to them, they don't have a chance to even write the ticket. Each time they do that's money out of the city's pocket. And you best believe that the city government is actually paying attention to that. They see that money not coming into their pockets. And it looks like we have a caller here. Caller, what's your name and what would you like to talk about?
Hey, Andy Josh, this is Michael.
Hey, Mike.
What's going on?
Not much. How you doing?
I am mad. I'm very mad, Josh. I don't know if you're mad. I don't know if anybody else is mad. I figure if you're not mad, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, there's a lot to be mad about right now. But go ahead and elaborate on what you're mad about.
Josh, I got anger issues right now. Executive orders.
Okay.
I don't know if you've got anger concerning executive orders. It's basically rule by fiat. It's a declaration. It's a declaration that I don't know anybody who's agreeing with it right now. Do you?
Not really. And, you know, it's one of those things that I've been against the executive orders when, you know, Clinton did executive orders or when Bush did executive orders. But what we have under Obama seems to really just be adding on top of that in a faster rate.
Well, you know, when you like roll a bowling ball downhill, as it progresses further downhill, it picks up speed. Correctly. So we can't say that the bowling ball started rolling downhill with Obama. You know, he's just well, Josh, I like to compare it to Bob's Big Boy. Are you familiar with that restaurant?
Yeah.
You know the big statue out in front?
Yep.
Every 4 years we have a contest to see whether or not we give Bob a red shirt or a blue shirt. But it doesn't matter because the menu is still poop soup or a shit sandwich, and the price still went up 15%.
And, you know, that's the, you know, right-left paradigm. And a lot of people, you know, they're hopeful now we have the Republicans. I really have no hope on whether it's Republicans or Democrats.
Well, let's look at who the Republicans are. Let's take the current Republican darling right now, the one who's getting all the face time, Mr. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, who, by the way, is a dual citizen, and he's one of the few dual citizens who's not a dual citizen with Israel, but he is a dual citizen nonetheless. And who is Ted Cruz married to? Got any idea?
I'm not quite sure.
Ted Cruz is married to a vice president of Goldman Sachs.
Oh, yeah, I do remember reading that. You know,
it's
become to the point where I really don't even have any hope. And, even when you look at Rand Paul, coming from a pretty good libertarian-minded father, you at first might have thought he would have been the same way, but he's admitted he's not a libertarian. He
absolutely not. He knows what side the money comes down on. He's absolutely aware of what side the money comes down on. And this is my point. You see the mess that the left-right paradigm creates. That it's just you either decline rapidly or you decline a tad slower, but the decline is there. So my feeling is that if you participate in this system, if you campaign for the Republican, if you campaign for that Democrat that's going to change everything, whatever, you're playing into the broken system. You are feeding quarters into the machine that's not going to give you a gumball. Doesn't matter how many quarters you put in it, you're not getting a gumball.
And, that kind of goes back to what George Carlin always would do his skit about voting over. You're voting for the same piece of crap. You say that if you don't vote, you can't complain. And like he said, it's the opposite way around. You voted for that person. You put them into office. You made
your fault. Absolutely. I agree with that. I think everybody should actually drop out of the system as much as possible. I'd like to know, Josh, how many people on April 15th this year are going to send the IRS a note that's saying that their dog ate their hard drive? It works for their boss.
With how much scandal has been revolved around the IRS, there shouldn't be any way they should be able to enforce any of their policies. They've shown that they are completely.
But Josh, they've got the perfect way to enforce their policy because the IRS just got themselves 4,000 shotguns and God knows how many rounds of handgun ammunition and brand new handguns.
And they
1,600 new agents.
Yep, and I was just getting ready to say that the more agents they've just added to, it's just, and it's not even just the IRS. They've been doing this even with the Department of Education.
Josh, why does the
there's something building up?
need a handgun?
We're coming to a tipping point. There's something building up.
Why would the Department of Education or agents who work for them need handguns? Or are they going to make sure that the weekly readers aren't getting out of hand? There's no Taliban info in the book fair for the children. This is crap. And I'll tell you what, the Tiny Dot video was great, but we don't have enough time for everybody to watch the Tiny Dot video.
And, that's something I've tried to share so much, and, the views on it, you really don't see people view it that much. And it's such a short video, such a simple video, and it explains everything, and people won't even take the time to educate themselves. And
absolutely not, Josh, because you know what? There's no Lady Gaga titties in that. There's no transsexual that makes you feel good about America in that. There's no hip hop driving beat in that video. There's no Lamborghinis in it.
And it's getting sad when you see the things they do, you see the overreach of government, they make it so obvious, they talk about it, they joke about it, and still people... I'll go vote. I'll vote for my next emperor.
Why wasn't there blood in the streets after the Gruber announcement? This guy comes on, basically says, "You're all a bunch of idiots. We're going to stick it in your butt any way we can." And then Obama comes out, and I think he told, 19 lies in 39 seconds?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's putting in the overtime. That's the way America used to be. Taking it to the extra. Not anymore, man. Now we get it in lies. How come there's not blood in the streets ankle deep over this crap? Now, people are just worried about where they're going to get the money to pay the extortion.
what are we going to do though? We don't want a violent revolution.
You know what, Josh? I agree with you. We don't want a violent revolution, but sometimes shit's inevitable. You know, like it's like dealing with like a child. Sometimes you got to smack that kid in the ass to get their attention. I'm not advocating it, but I'm going to advocate the thing that's absolutely closer to it. Do not pay another fucking dime in taxes. No money, no more money for these bastards. I mean, Jesus H. Christ, Josh, you got to like be able to agree with me. If we put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, within 3 years we'd have a sand crisis. We'd be almost out of sand.
Yeah, basically is how our government operates. But I think you pointed out one thing is the whole revenue. When people decide that they're no longer going to be slaves. Now, you know, you have one part of the whole Ferguson thing where you have the agitators, the commies coming in, basically kind of justifying the police force because they're in there trying to stir up the violence. That way there'll be some type of big riot. But then on the other hand, you do have people that are like, we're just not putting up with the corruption no more. We're out here to stand up against corruption.
But Josh, that's not what gets
going to be spreading across the country. The problem is we have government and people that are the advisors and the puppet masters of the governments that already are expecting it and already have plans for it. If we get to this point where we do have this mass revolution, what do we do to ensure that we don't just follow history's mistakes?
Well, Josh, number one would be to teach children how to read. Because children can't read anymore. And if you can't read, you definitely can't read history, and then you're doomed to forget it, or to repeat it. As it is, we've already forgotten it. I say the best thing you can do is to not pay any taxes. When it comes April 15th, send that email to the IRS, send that letter to the IRS. My dog ate my hard drive. My hard drive crashed. I'm unable to get that information from you. If it works for the boss, for the head lady at the IRS, it's got to work for the peons who pay it, right? That's what you think.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be any different if you took it to court. Well, if she can't be held responsible, then why should I? But do you really see that being something realistic?
No, absolutely not, Josh. I see people absolutely going along and paying for it because, my God, who's going to build the roads?
Now, another thing that I've advocated for is state nullification of federal laws and the ability for, if you elect the right sheriff in your county, the ability for them to kick the feds out. What would you think that would be a more realistic goal for at least the communities in your area?
I think that depends on in an area by area situation. In my area, everybody knows who the sheriff is. In a larger population area, they may not know. They don't know who the mayor is. They don't know who their elected officials are. They just know that they have to go to work, put gas in the car, and put food in the kid.
Yeah, it would be up to the people that are aware, the people that are awake to what's going on. And also for some of those people to stand up and say, hey, I'm going to run for sheriff, let all the liberty-minded people know that, I'm here to stand up for the people and their, personal individual rights.
But Josh, do you think people even want liberty anymore?
Yeah, I really do. Liberty. I don't think most people even, they inherently want liberty. They inherently want freedom. But I think they're extremely misguided on what that means. How that feeling is to translate into reality.
I don't think they have any idea what freedom truly is. If freedom doesn't come with a flashy theme song and a logo and several products to go along with it, I don't think they know what it is. I think that people have lost the idea that freedom means work. Freedom means get your ass out there and make for yourself. You don't depend on anybody else.
Yeah, any of your interactions with society would be volunteer. You don't have to pay someone to produce. You don't have to pay someone to transfer, goods with another person. And I think that also gets back to, in your local community, do more bartering, do more, person to person transactions where you completely let go of government interference.
That's right. There's no reason you should pay tax on say, let's just give the bushel of apples example. If you went out there and you picked those apples and you're trading them, there's no reason you should pay tax on that. How are they going to tax you on your sweat and energy for climbing that tree or however the hell you pick apples? There's no possible way. People, I think one of the big problems is Josh, words have meaning. They have true definitions, and people don't know them anymore. We're in a society where language is dying every day. How many times a day do you see LOL, WTF, OMG, BFF?
Right.
And I'm sure, as I have, I'm sure you've heard somebody actually use that in verbal communication. OMG, yeah. LOL, you've heard that.
And what's even worse is in the school systems, they've completely stopped teaching handwriting.
So isn't the Constitution written in cursive?
Yeah, that's something I pointed out before. I'm like, they'll look at something like that and they'll see a foreign language that they know nothing of.
They'll look at it and think it's in Arabic. They'll look at it and think it's in Haji language.
And it's getting really sad that, these kids aren't dumb. They're being dumbed down. And
Josh, I would disagree with you. They are dumb because even though they are being dumbed down, they have no desire to learn. And I think
their desire is misdirected.
Ability to do it.
I think their desire to learn is misdirected because of technology. We've misdirected our the youth to nothing but technology, and I think that's why things like UCY is so important, because that's where a lot of the youth is going, is towards the technological areas. So you have to be able to reach them there, and that's one thing though that is sad, because they don't hold, a book in their hand that's ancient that, you can read. And, I've got dictionaries in the house that are from, the early 1900s and late 1800s, because they're trying to start changing our history, changing the definition of words. And I think it's important to try to keep, that history around it, say, this is what that word meant when that Constitution was written. This is what that word meant when, when I was young. When we were saying liberty, this is what we meant by liberty, not what they're trying to tell you liberty is now by being collective and working for the social good of the populace.
Well, and you know what? I got no problem with working towards the social good of a populace. I really have no problem with that. I don't think that a large corporation should be able to come in and rape the land, give half the kids autism or club feet or cleft palate, and then abscond off to the Bahamas with $2 billion a day. I really don't. I don't think that's right.
The betterment of society.
I'm not advocating any sort of overt socialism, unless it's to be honest with you, national socialism.
Well, the whole concept of a working for the social good is giving every individual the ability to prosper. And that's giving them the freedom to do that. And we don't have that. Everything is restricted, where you basically have to be well connected to be able to, even start a business. It seems the amount of, restrictions. And I think the internet is so great because it's kind of a lot of people to work around some of that. But we don't give the individuals the freedom to prosper without harming others.
Well, no, because the minute you start prospering, you're cutting into somebody else's action, and that's not going to happen. I'm telling you, Josh, we need to We need to like really enforce the fact that words have meanings, and a lot of people use words they don't know what they mean, and that's a big problem. People talk about freedom like it's something you can buy at Walmart. It's not. It's something you got to sweat for. You got to bleed for it, and I think that time's coming, Josh.
Yeah, and you know, when you speak out, that's one thing you're doing, that you're putting, you know, your life on the line, because you become a target. And many of us have spoken out, and we might not reach that many ears, but we keep doing it because there is a war coming, and we're trying to, you know, steer people away from violence as much as possible.
That war is already here.
And you know, I've heard many people say that lately, and I think you are hitting on something, that we are in the opening of this, you know, battle that it's been planned and staged for centuries, and it's finally hitting us.
I think you just hit on something very important. It's been going on for centuries. There is no new world order. When you hear somebody talking about the new world order, smack them into reality. There is no new world order. It's the same plan as all along. You just know what it is now.
Yeah, it's something that it's been planned by, you know, generations of families, and they're still out there in the public eye, and they're not shying away from, you know, their beliefs. Just look at, you know, Bill Gates talk about depopulation.
It doesn't matter. He has a great product that comes in at $3.99. People can afford it. They don't care what his beliefs are.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, these families.
You know, that while this is all going on, there is a Muslim somewhere 7,000 miles away from you who's plotting to behead you right now. You should be scared. You should give up liberty for this. I'm telling you, Josh, this is just asinine. The whole thing is asinine. We need that Dutch uncle to come in and slap us around and tell us what's up.
I think when, you know, everything goes awry, when the system starts collapsing and we start becoming that third world, we're going to have a lot of people that are going to go, damn, those people that believed in freedom were right. But by then it's going to be too late. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to basically go gulp. I think there's going to be a mass exodus, and I think the government's going to try to stop that.
And where are they going to go, Josh? Half the United States does not have a passport.
They're going to try to flee, and I think that's when the whole border fence security is going to really start coming into play. You're going to see where they really are concerned, and it's going to be not allowing people with wealth to ever get out of the country with anything.
Well, then I think that's what we got to do. We found their weak spot, and that's where we got to hit them. Hit them right in the pocketbook. April 15th, my dog ate my hard drive. Pass it on to your friends. Don't give them any more money. Not another damn dollar to these sons of bitches.
And I wish more people would stand up and actually do that. And I think if we could get enough people to do it, I think it would make a change. But sad thing is, I don't think they will. Hopefully they will and prove me wrong. But I don't know. We'll see. I want to thank you for calling in, Michael.
Thanks a lot, Josh. April 15th, my dog ate my hard drive. Pass it on.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay. You know, when we look at this whole situation, I think this next coming year is going to hit hard for Americans. I think we're going to see some type of bubble created and a collapse of that bubble. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we avert it. Hopefully we're not seeing the start of a really kind of a cold civil war. But many people are actually predicting that exact thing. And libertarians, constitutionalists. I've even seen a lot of people around the Green Party predicting that. But I think a lot of people aren't aware of more of the global agenda. It's not really in our politics here. And I think, again, I'm a big supporter of doing things at the local level. That's the only way you're going to affect actual change in this corrupt environment we're in. If you decide to vote, that's on you. That's your choice. I think feeding into the federal system is definitely a waste of time. I think it's too corrupt, and I think if no one went and voted, I think that would send a clear message. But really, until you have your local area, your local community, and the communities around you to really take control back of their own lives, their own ability to prosper, I don't think you're going to see change. And if that doesn't happen, if you don't have a strong local community, which is another reason why I'm real hopeful of the Free State Project. But if you don't have a strong local community, what they're really trying to do, and this is what we were touching on about, they've been planning this for centuries, is the world government. It's not a new world government. They've been talking about it, planning for it. This was part of what inspired, the United Nations and the League of Nations. It's a ability to control the populace around the world, and people that don't go along with what they're wanting, they can just collapse your economy. And when you see that, there's world banks that are running everything. If countries need bailed out, the Federal Reserve can bail them out. They can give loans to other countries. How they do that? Well, they just add some more digits on a computer. Basically devalue the dollar in secret. And these other countries are getting bailed out. You think the bank bailout was bad? We've been bailing out other countries. And a lot of these bailouts I don't think have been helping. The Euro's not some gleamer of success over there. Greece isn't a gleamer of success. Our own bailouts here in America haven't been a success. And people are getting fed up when their dollar can't buy what it used to. And you have, people talking about, the oil prices have dropped, gas prices have dropped. Well, yeah, they have. That's because we've been working with Saudi Arabia to basically destabilize Syria. I believe that's our real intention. Kick Assad out of there. Assad, whatever. Once they have a hold, that your prices, you're probably going to see those go back up. And we're going to see probably a frightening rise in oil prices and gas prices. I think there's also going to be a little payback coming from oil companies with the pipeline being not passing. Again, hopefully I'm wrong. But I think we are definitely, we have something building up. And I'm not sure what it is. And another thing I've talked about is technology. And for the most part, the liberty movement's been pretty successful at spreading the message of liberty, the freedom, idea of freedom, libertarian message. But I think that technology is slowly being turned back against us. I think there's, quite a bit of groups out there and, white hackers and whatnot out there creating modes that allow us to keep our privacy and, things like the Tor project. You have VPNs or whatever they're called out there. That there's a lot of things, Bitcoin even. It's not completely hidden, but it's harder to track, and it's a way of getting around the system that basically is a system of extortion. But I seen this article, and I had to bring this up. This is out of the local.se. So I believe this is probably, it's out of Sweden. Sweden news in English. This one's titled, "I'm among the first Swedes with a microchip." And it's one of those times, and we're like, yep, here comes the start of something terrible. Here it says, Sweden has a global reputation as a leader in developing innovative technologies, but will a trend for inserting microchips in the human body catch on? The local spoke to one of the first Swedes to choose an implant to unlock her office door. Emily Lance, 25, from Umeå in northern Sweden, got a microchip inserted into her hand last week. She became a guinea pig during SEMI 2014 in Stockholm, a conference about digitalism, the internet, and the future. In line with the goals of the event, participants were offered to get a microchip fitted for free, an opportunity Lance jumped at. I don't feel as though this is the future, this is the present. To me, it's weird that we haven't seen this sooner, she tells the local. There is evidence that the number of chip wearers in Sweden is growing rapidly. This was very much been an underground phenomenon up until now, but there are perhaps 100 people with the microchip in Sweden, says Hans Sindblad from the Swedish biohackers group Bionifkin. In the last month alone, 50 people from the group underwent the procedure. The technology has previously been used for key tags or chips in our pets' necks to let them through cat flaps. What is relatively new is inserting the chip in human hands. So here we go with the microchipping. I guess you can read the rest of that at the local.se. We already know that they're wanting to push things like that pretty hardcore. your credit cards already now have RFID chips coming out in them, where people could really walk by and grab the information. So if you have a chipped one, I recommend getting a RFID blocking wallet or something. Those I think are going to be pretty unsafe. You can buy the technology to pull information off, stuff like that, and this is why I say kids really aren't dumb. They're being dumbed down. Is they have a pretty good grasp. There's 13-year-olds out there that can program, that can hack, that can, they're smart, but not in all the needed fields of being smart. They don't have really any grasp of philosophy, of true art, really getting out there with their hands. And I don't want to say all of them, but a lot of the populace. It's something that I think is really vital for, this new age of children that are growing up, and they're good at electronics, but if they go along with whatever the government tells them, what good is that technology know-how going to do? It's going to enslave you and me and them. How many movies have been out kind of warning you? Look at Divergent, and then actually really look into the theory of Divergent and maybe Bill Gates, and see what their whole philosophy on Divergent is. Oh, and how it also links to Common Core. That's gets scary, because that's not a movie, that's real life. Divergent, Common Core, Bill Gates. Go look that up. But there's been movie after movie coming out that's really been warning. A movie that's come out that it's not a news story, it's something I read in school. I know a lot of people read The Giver. And that's almost a, futuristic look at the path we're headed. And I remember reading that book when I was young, and it kind of frightened me. And I think it frightened me the most because I could see it happening. I looked at it as, this is real possibility. This is not just a story. This is a warning. I think they did a really good job with the movie. I was kind of wondering how the movie would turn out compared to the book, but they didn't do too bad of a job. I liked it. I don't watch a lot of movies, but there's certain movies that draw my attention. Just knowing the book The Giver, I watched that one. But reading stuff about Divergent, the theory of divergency and all that, and how these people were talking about it, and it links right back to eugenics, and it's the whole separation. There's two classes of people. That there's people that have a lot of ability, and there's people with very little ability. And basically, if you're down in the bottom part of society, you don't have ability. No matter how good, consider you the unwanted, the peasantry, basically. And that all links back to the whole theory of divergency and all that. Again, like I was telling you on the last couple broadcasts, I'm trying to work on a project here, and hopefully I'll have it done soon. I've also been working on the studio, which I forget if I told you guys, but I am in the new studio. It's not completely done, but trying to get it finished while also trying to work on this project. And my goal with the project I'm starting, and hopefully it'll lead to many more, is actually bring some really high quality information. Bring it in a well presented way that will catch other people's eyes. And I think what it's really going to be focused on, at least these certain projects, will be the history of a lot of these people that the people that are in control now. Their learning and their philosophy and their understanding of reality is based off of these people's teachings. And I kind of want to work through, history and linking all these people to, the people that are trying to control us in the present day, and why they believe what they believe. And it's pretty interesting, all the research I've been doing lately, and the more I learn about more of these people and their influences, and it's spider web. But the thing is, the spider web doesn't really reach too far out. The key people are pretty close with the older key people. The generations of people that carried on this teaching and philosophy. And hopefully I'm able to do high quality work here and give something to the people that they can spread around and share, and it'll capture people's attention, and they're, something that you just can't stop watching. And that's my goal with this, and that's why I've been working on the studio hard, is to be able to have the ability to produce something that's high quality. And I do it all out of my pocket, and it takes time, but I think in the end, the goal is to reach more people than we've been able to reach. And I'm going to let my audience here at UCY get a lot of previews of each project that I do put out. That way, the loyal listeners, the people out there that's tuned in and have supported this broadcast and all the other broadcasts here on UCY.tv, get to enjoy a little bit of that, little freebies. So definitely stay tuned for updates on these projects, and hopefully I'll get it soon. Having a little issue with some mail service, so I've already got pieces of equipment that I've ordered, and have a problem getting them here. So hopefully everything will get straightened out, and I'll be able to start getting work on this latest project that I've been researching. And I think it'll be some great work. Okay, I want to move along here. Wow, we are kind of already done with the first hour. Didn't realize how fast we were moving there. Give me a second while I load this up. Close the browser and reopen it. For some reason now, if I leave my browser open too long, it starts whacking out on me. Now, last broadcast, I talked a little bit about the whole immigration thing. The real reason Obama, I believe, is using the executive action is to basically put in play basically a civil war. They've been sparking racism. They've been sparking, the left versus the right. The whole immigration thing. They're trying to spark up violence there. It seems to all be coming to a head. Well, We Are Change put out a video. The real reason for Obama's executive action on immigration. And I like to support We Are Change. Luke does pretty good work.
Democrats and Republicans are fighting like cats and dogs because Barack Obama has announced that he's going to take executive action this week and allow 5 million immigrants to stay in the United States of America. Now, the mainstream media, of course, they're basing this issues on the left and right, dividing and conquering people, and not really getting down to what's really happening. And a lot of information is being not really reported on. Such as this important fact that Barack Obama has actually deported more immigrants than any other president in the history of the United States of America, and he doesn't care about immigrants. He's continuing the prison industrial complex that takes immigrants away, jails them, earns huge profits. If there's one horrible thing, it's not only the prison industrial complex, it's the immigration prison industrial complex that holds people for months with just not telling them what's happening, and they're earning huge amounts of money. But that's a whole another different story. So if Barack Obama doesn't care about immigrants, which he doesn't, he deported more of them than George W. Bush, why is he calling for this action plan? Well, whenever the government is coming out and saying that they're going to take action and create a law for the greater good of the people and help people, that's bullshit. It's always bullshit. We know it's bullshit because he deports immigrants more than any other president way before him. Now let me show you some interesting things that I pay attention to that really kind of connected the dots for me. Bill Clinton recently came out and said, Obama's immigration delay may have caused loss of Hispanic vote in the midterm elections. So President Bill Clinton is saying Obama should have taken action on immigration reform earlier. If he would have done so, the midterm elections wouldn't be one-sided towards the Republicans as they were this year around. NBC News says, a favor to Hillary, Obama's political pros and cons for immigration action, and lists that this looks like it's a favor to Hillary. Now we know the Latino vote. With Obama's executive action, he's going to allow 5 million Latinos and immigrants to stay in this country. The Latino vote is extremely important. Even CNN reported that it was the Latino vote that was really key on Obama being reelected as president in 2012. Poor Romney here, he even tried to speak Spanish just to get the Hispanic vote. The Republicans don't get a lot of Hispanics to vote for him, and many people point to that being the main reason why they lost the 2012 elections, and the Republicans are vying for the Latino vote. But with what Barack Obama is doing, he's pretty much creating the debate for the 2016 elections where Republicans will have to go against what he's doing. And with this issue being so complex and so hard, there's really no right answer. So once you go against Obama's executive action, you alienate the Latino vote, and you have to explain yourself and create a solution to a problem that's very complex that I think there's really no answer to. There's 21 million Latino voters. There's going to be more after this executive action. So we know this is very key and important. Now, this is me connecting the dots. This is my assumptions. Back in 2008, when Hillary Clinton and Obama were running for president of the United States of America, it was a very interesting race, to say the least. But after the 2008 Bilderberg meeting, everything kind of connected together. Because why would Barack Obama be helping Hillary Clinton right now? He has no incentive to, unless there was a deal made beforehand. And back in 2008, even before the Bilderberg meeting started in Chantilly, Virginia, I talked to Hillary Clinton's PR manager, campaign manager. Of course, the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton won't know if she's going to be a Bilderberg. But, of course, it came out. President Barack Obama, then Senator, and Hillary Clinton were both in Chantilly, Virginia, where the 2008 Bilderberg meeting was taking place. During the same days that the Bilderberg meeting was taking place, and ABC even reported that Obama and Clinton ditched press for secret meetings. This is when they were still competing against each other. And the deception got so insane that Barack Obama was supposed to be in Chicago when the Bilderberg meeting was taking place. He was in Chantilly, Virginia. He was in Virginia campaigning. He told everyone he was going to be in Chicago. The press went on this jet to interview him. All the people who were hunting down Barack Obama, all the people who were concentrating on him and focusing on him, on interviewing him, were on this jet. They closed the door. Robert Gibbs shows up and says, yeah, Barack Obama is having some secret meetings. And the press was pissed.
Robert, why were we not told about this meeting and that the senator wouldn't be on our flight until the doors were shut and we were about to taxi to take off?
Again, we had a desire. Senator Obama had a desire to do some meetings. Others had a desire to meet with him tonight in a private way, and that's what we're doing.
Private way, private meetings, as Robert Gibbs just squirms. I mean, you have to watch this video. It's really, really interesting. It's going to be in the description below. But why am I pointing my fingers at Bilderberg and this secret meeting that knowingly Obama made sure the press was not there for? And then it came out, it was a meeting between Clinton. They were in Chantilly, Virginia when the 2008 Bilderberg meetings were taking place. They were at the location. I will guarantee you everything that they were there. Why is this important to me? Because the Bilderberg Group, which is a meeting of 150 of the world's most powerful people, they meet in secret in different locations every year. The Bilderberg Group is important for me because they chose vice presidents. They chose presidents before. Now, you may be calling me a conspiracy theorist. There's an article by the New York Times. The New York Times reported this back in 2004. Just read this article here. Several people pointed to the secretive and elusive Bilderberg Conference of some 120 people that this year drew the likes of Henry A. Kissinger, Melinda Gates, and Richard A. Pearl to Strauss, Italy in early June. As helping with Mr. Kerry's heart, they're talking about Mr. John Kerry picking the vice president that was going to run with him. Mr. Edwards spoke so well in a debate on American politics with the Republican Ralph Reed. The participants broke Bilderberg rules to clap before the end of the session. Beforehand, Mr. Edwards traveled to Brussels to meet with NATO officials and all that. And they even say his performance at Bilderberg was important. And then it states later in the article would be 4 more days before Mr. Edwards' phone in Georgetown would ring Tuesday morning at 7:30 with the job offer, with John Kerry personally calling him, saying that he was going to be his VP running against George W. Bush in 2004. So we're New York Times reporting this, Bilderberg picking the vice president, selecting it. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you have 150 of the world's most powerful people when it comes to banking, government, corporations, learning institutions, every aspect of society, the most important people. Why wouldn't they pick a candidate that works out best for them and work out deals with them? So New York Times reported on it, And to me, this brings it all back together to that secret meeting that Obama had with Hillary Clinton back in 2008. Because there's really no other incentive for Barack Obama to be giving Hillary favors to help win the 2016 presidential election. We know Hillary Clinton's running. We know everyone in the mainstream media is talking about her. We know there's going to be a huge push to have the first woman in office. I'm pointing my fingers at the secret meeting where they met with the world's most powerful people. And the world's most powerful people, they probably worked out a deal with each other, because after this meeting, Obama and Clinton went soft at each other when they're still vying for the nomination by the Democratic Party. They were campaigning against each other, and they went soft against each other after this private meeting. Most likely, they worked out a deal with the Bilderberg groups. If you think this is likely, click the like button.
Now, I don't know if that's the key, but I do think that the whole immigration thing is to try to play into the left. I think the hardest radicals are currently on the left. I think the people on the right, they want to do it a little bit slower, a little bit more easy, and they're the big war hawks. They're the ones that promote the, fight for your country. When you're really not really fighting for your country, you're fighting for the government or a corporation. Who knows who you're fighting for anymore, but it's definitely not for me. If you're going off to war over in Iraq, Afghanistan, I'm going to leave my name out of it. If they choose to come over here and try to fight me, I believe in self-defense. I believe that, we should defend, free people. I think we should come together. And I think that's what most people that join the military intend to do. But it kind of goes back to the miseducation, the misdirection of meanings, and you see it in training videos that have come out where they say the founding fathers in today's world would be terrorists, and Tea Partyists, and the Mayak Report. It just goes on and on that, well, if they believe you're the bad person, you're the terrorist, then they're doing their job. They're fighting the bad people. The problem is they're being, miseducated on who the bad people are. How about the people committing extortion? If the mafia commits extortion, they get put in prison. When the government does it, people wave a flag. And that's why we need to start looking at ourselves, looking at, do you think the politicians are going to make the change? Or do you think it's up to the people? I personally think it's up to the people to make the change. Be the change you want to see in the world. We can talk about freedom, claim freedom, but until we become free people, it doesn't matter. We have to free ourselves first. That's how the nation will become free. Okay. A few things here. And, I was talking earlier about technology, and there's people out there that are helping, thwart people that are trying to invade our privacy with our electronics, and even the government. Well, here out of the LibertyBeat.com Committee to Protect Journalists releases a list of ways to hide from eavesdropping. And just this alone is pretty important. And they have a link to the source here, but it's a pretty simple just paragraph here on libertybeat.com, thelibertybeat.com. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, has released a set of tips to protect journalists from eavesdroppers who might pry in their communications. The CPJ made several recommendations, including only surfing websites with the upgraded web protocol, HTTPS. That stands for Secure. This applies encryption to your whole connection and keeps you private. They also recommend email encryption software such as PGP. Text messages and phone calls can also be encrypted with Text Secure and Red Phone for Android or Signal for iOS. And they have a link. It's at cpj.org in their blog 2014. So, that's one thing that, groups are coming together to try to help you protect yourself and them to protect themselves. You got to remember, we are humans, so we do things for selfish reasons, but if you do it in the right way, it benefits others too. Creating technology like this benefits yourself, but to spread it benefits more people, and it helps spread the cause. That way, well, maybe your ideas worked at first, but now they're not working. Well, someone else that was using your ideas noticed they stopped working. They're kind of smart, and they came up with better ways or some type of software. And, we benefit off each other, but it should also be volunteer. You shouldn't be forced to come up with ideas. You shouldn't be forced to do a job, or, we have to be a free people and follow our passions. And I think with government, all we have is a roadblock in our way to prosper and succeed on our own merits. Again, you have to, have someone willing to pull the right strings for you and owe you a favor. Okay. Trying to bring this up here, if it'll come up. Here it goes. I was wondering if it was going to pop up. Okay. This one was out benswan.com. He posted, is Obama the emperor after unilateral immigration action? And this isn't the first time that this has happened. And you've heard my take, Luke's take on this. It's one of those things that we really have had emperors. As long as people have trusted in government and allowed them to trample over other people's rights, as long as they weren't affected, we've had just emperors voted in, basically. You're allowed to do whatever as long as you're voted in. There are some exceptions, but really minor. You even look at what Bill Clinton, things that he did, kind of behind the scenes. Not really behind the scenes, but wasn't widely talked about. But he'll get impeached for his personal, things that he did that really had nothing to do with his presidency or the, things that he was doing against the Second Amendment. That's something that maybe he should have been impeached on. It's always to really cover up what they're really doing, I think. And I think this is a way to kind of try to throw a bone towards the Democratic Party. I think they kind of almost allowed the Republicans to win right now. That way they can blame it on the Republicans. Nothing gets fixed, and then they vote for Hillary for president. But this out BenSwan.com immigration plan titled, "Is Obama the Emperor After Unilateral Immigration Action?"
And God bless this country we love.
And there you have it, President Obama addressing the nation tonight. I want to back up for just a minute and go back, take a look at those 3 executive actions in specific that he talked about tonight. We'll bring in the panel after that. But again, this is cracking down, he says, on illegal immigration at the border. He will continue to do so. We'll be discussing that issue because, as the president mentioned, he has been very strong in terms of cracking down on border crossings. Deporting felons, not families. What does that ultimately look like? And accountability, criminal background checks, as well as paying taxes. And the pathway, he says, to citizenship. This is not, as the president says, blanket amnesty. Joining me now is Ms. Palma Yanni, a practicing immigration attorney, right here in D.C. with me, and Gabriel Gutierrez, the director for the Center for Study of the Peoples of the Americas and a professor in the Department of Chicano Studies at California State University, Northridge. Thank you both for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
So let me begin here, Palma, because what am I missing here? The media has been hyping this story. The president's about to take some huge sweeping action into unilaterally giving citizenship to 5 million people. Not at all what happened here tonight. It seems like this was more hype than anything else because these actions really aren't anything staggering, are they?
No, they're not. And they are actions that, many past presidents have taken. What galls, I guess is the word, the Republicans, is that perhaps from the advance information we received, as many as 5 million individuals may benefit from this temporary reprieve from deportation. And they will be able to work legally for a 3-year period, and they will be able to, they're required to pay their taxes, and of course they have to go through background checks, which again, they're already here. Mm-hmm. There's no possible way that these people could be deported en masse. And wouldn't you rather have them paying taxes, know who they are, do the background checks, concentrate on people that are a risk that you don't want in the U.S.? I mean, it is so common sense. But
and Gabriel, to that point, I mean, I think what Palma's bringing up here is really important. But at the end of the day, I've heard pundits, we all love pundits, right, kind of pontificating about this issue and saying it's because of the size of this, the mass of this, and that's why it's so unique and shocking to people. But look, at the end of the day, we have seen the numbers rise at this incredible rate. Something like since 1990, we've gone from 3.5 million illegal immigrants to 11 million here in 2014. At some point, you have to do something with these people, and deportation cannot possibly be a reasonable answer for 5 million people.
Absolutely, and I think that not only that, but when we look at the larger context of it, we look at the fact that much of the rhetoric that comes in that Obama has been basically resting his deportation policies on are very narrow and very shallow, I might say. I mean, you're talking about a country that's existed for 238 years, who's claiming to have the moral authority to deport, to regulate the migration of people who have been on this continent for tens of thousands, and according to some scholarly estimates, hundreds of thousands of years. Now, what gives the United States the moral authority to do that, again, given the small time frame? And so much of the debate, much of the discussion, even in terms of the advanced information that we were getting, is being scrutinized in a very ahistorical sense. You know, it's in many ways being assessed. And I've heard people lauding these numbers and people talking about how impactful this is. But when we look at basically Obama's predecessor, in one of the predecessors anyway, in this area, Ronald Reagan, when he passed or when he signed off on IRCA, you had people doing the same thing, talking about how he grounded families and so on and so forth. What they didn't talk about it was how effectively IRCA was also about closing the borders. So what we're going through now was not intended to happen based on the language in IRCA. And so in many ways, when we're looking at this as a historical moment, there's a lot to be said about not only this one act, and really the question that probably should be asked is it too little too late for Obama? Because we really need to look at what really initiated this type of an action. And in many ways, you know, we have a lame duck president who pretty much is taking on an issue that he refused to take on. Well, actually, I shouldn't say he refused to take on. He took it on very well to the point of deporting 2.3+ million in his first 6 years in office.
Gabriel, let me ask you about that, because I think that's an important issue as well. Look, this president had the full of Congress. When he first came into office, he had the Senate, he had the House. He did not do anything in terms of anything sweeping for immigration reform. And as you pointed out, actually, what he said tonight about criminal deportations being up 80%, that is factually correct. However, Palma, beyond that, just immigration deportation in general is up significantly under this president, is it not?
Yes, it is.
So at this point, is it too little too late for this president to try to make the case that, no, I'm really looking for some kind of substantial immigration reform, or is this just politics as usual?
He's at the point where something had to be done. Because, and it's not just politics. I mean, the system, as everybody keeps saying, is broken. And he really did. I mean, we got a bill that, you know, nobody loved through the Senate because it was a compromise, as he mentioned, and the House simply wouldn't move. And at some point, you don't have an option. And what he's doing is, it's clearly within his powers. There isn't any question about that. Virtually every president, definitely every in the last 50 years, has done a similar deferred action status or granting a temporary reprieve, from Bush with the Chinese students to deferred and forced departure for Salvadorans. These covered hundreds of thousands of people. They didn't cover millions, but they covered hundreds of thousands. And when you look at the percentage, perhaps, of undocumented people then, as opposed to now, it probably comes out to be pretty similar to what past presidents have done. And again, it's just, it's collecting the taxes, it's doing the background checks so you actually know who's here, and then having people, if you strengthen with the IRCA problem that was mentioned by our other panelist, was when you can be employed under the table, and you're not necessarily paying taxes, and employers are not paying minimum wage, let alone a fair wage, that has a negative effect across the economy. And so when you grant the work authorization, and part of this is a stronger enforcement of the work site documentation to make sure that people will be authorized to work then in order to get jobs, that is one of the major things that stops the influx, which is already much lower than it's been, it stops the influx of the new immigrants because you can't work. And people come here to work.
And you make the point that the influx right now is actually lower, and it is lower than it has been. This past summer, there was an anomaly, certainly, with those undocumented children who were coming here without parents and guardians. But that was an anomaly in terms of the system, not what necessarily Drudge Report would tell you, but that was an anomaly in the system. Gabriel, though, it sounds like, I mean, clearly you're frustrated, and I think a lot of folks are frustrated with this president and where he's been. But let me ask you this: he talks about, you know, we can't just leave essentially a permanent underclass of people, which is what we have right now in this country, and people who are abused through this system. What can this president do through this process to that you would say at least he's taking that step?
Well, let me go back a little bit and say that for those people that will be positively affected, it is a huge impact for them. I mean, they get to stay. I mean, that is the bottom line. They're gonna get themselves into a situation, or they're gonna be put into a situation where they're gonna be able to sleep at night knowing that the following day they're not going to be deported. But it becomes problematic when I'm talking about it being too little, too late. What about the reunification of the families of those 2.3 million in the first 6 years? We're not even accounting for 2014. But what about the reunification of those families that include veterans who joined the military and then who were deported as a result of their status? Many of them having joined under the auspices of thinking that it would expedite
it would be a path to citizenship. It would be a path to citizenship, right. Sure. I want to play something for you guys real quick. 22 times President Obama has said in speeches that he could not act alone on this issue, saying he's not an emperor, not a king. Listen to this.
This notion that somehow I can just change the laws unilaterally is just not true.
And sometimes when I talk to immigration advocates, they wish I could just bypass Congress and change the law myself. But that's not how democracy works.
What I've said is that there's a path to get this done, and that's through Congress.
I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed.
We are a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws.
If, in fact, I could solve all these problems without passing laws in Congress, then I would do so. But we're also a nation of laws. That's part of our tradition. The biggest problems that we're facing right now have to do with George Bush trying to bring more and more power into the executive branch and not go through Congress at all. And that's what I intend to reverse when I'm President of the United States of America.
So there's obviously, as I mentioned, 22 examples of this. I just want to make the point tonight, because there's been so much media talk about this. This president tonight did not attempt to unilaterally create blanket amnesty. He did not attempt to usurp the Constitution and declare citizenship. What he did say tonight is he is attempting to prioritize the office that he's in and sending down these memos to the offices that respond to the executive branch to prioritize where money goes and where attention goes. We're running short on time, so let me give you both a chance to weigh in on that. Is he prioritizing, Palma, the right things here?
Absolutely. What he's talking about is finding out who's dangerous and who's not. And the people that have lived here peaceably, complying with all laws, except their immigration status, which is civil, they get to pay taxes and stay here for at least 3 years, which is, it's limited, but that's because he's not the king and he can't change laws. And people that commit crimes, are felons, are dangerous, will be deported. That's the priorities. That makes sense.
And as you mentioned, the president is not changing the law here. He's prioritizing. Gabriel, let me ask you, what should be the next prioritization here? Last word.
Let me just actually say something about this. When you look at the 2013 deportation numbers, first of all, 100% of the deportees were all from Latin America. The second thing is that over 40% of those who were deported had no past criminal record. The American Immigration Council notes that simple misdemeanor type of crimes committed by immigrants are often, through Congress, defined as aggravated felonies, or felonies, which criminalizes the behavior of these immigrants. The very fact that we talk about the term illegal, right, was not illegal historically. It's something that was socially constructed in order to make it a crime. So now it becomes a crime for immigrants who are here as undocumented immigrants to search for a job, for example. Right, as in states like like Arizona and Alabama and other states like that. So what happens is the criminalization of acts that are not criminal puts them on a path to being deported as criminal elements.
Well, and you're making a very important point there. Tonight on Twitter, some folks were messaging back and forth using the hashtag #AsYouWish, making the exact point that you're making, Gabriel, which is that ultimately borders are arbitrary and that this is a law that's been constructed, but there is no violent offense against anyone else. So viewing it as a criminal act in that respect is mistaken, they say. So great discussion. Appreciate you both. Gabriel Gutierrez.
Okay, now to touch on this, I'm a libertarian. I don't believe in these arbitrary borders. I think I think there should only be a border between free people and non-free people. That's the border, and that means that there is a government drawing a border between free people and non-free people. And I think really we kind of, in a way, have that. It's one of those things that they will hype you up against immigration. They're going to come in and take all your jobs. And it's really not about that. The problem is we can't create jobs anymore. We can't. It gets harder and harder every year through more and more regulation, EPA, FDA, whatnot. You know, and it gets to the point where it makes it harder and harder for you and me to create a business and be able to hire immigrants. That's how the whole, you know, the growth of America, you know, really grew the most. It was through, hey, we got people here. They're smart. They're able because, well, we've had freedom, and now they can create jobs and hire some of the new immigrants. And the new immigrants have, you know, kids do well for themselves as employees. Their kids get to grow up here in America, have the best education. They're able to create jobs, and new immigrants come in and fill in the spot. You know, that's how we grew. And there's not always going to be people that are successful. Some people don't want to be a business owner. They just want to live out in the woods, and they should. But, you know, it's one of those things that we become a country that's been so controlled, so manipulated, so corrupted that when we see immigration in the news, it's not that we're against immigration. We're against what government is doing with immigration. We're against government using immigrants as a tool. You know, and it's not new. Again, it's not new. They've been perfecting this type of stuff for a long time, and they've used immigrants before, and it shouldn't be governments using immigrants. It shouldn't be anybody using immigrants. It should be a voluntary interaction between you and, you know, a person that decides to move to your area. It's no different than someone moving from, you know, California. Well, they at least have, well, no, there's people out in California that people out on the East Coast will be like, these people are weird. You know, you meet people from different types of societies that you go, these people were, I've seen city people look at, you know, a country person, or even better yet, you know, bigger cities, when they see Amish people. What are you, a pilgrim? What? It's one of those things, you know, culture differences. And it's here in America and, you know, in Mexico. It's not the immigration that's the problem. It's how they will use it against the American people. And on top of it, the most important thing is, what about the people that have been trying to do it the right way? No one ever wants to talk about them when it comes to immigration. It's about talking about the illegals. What about the people that have spent thousands of dollars to become a U.S. citizen or get their family to become a U.S. citizen? What about the people that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to stay here in the U.S.? What about the people that have paid thousands of dollars and still not been able to get their family here? But the people that snuck across the border, you know, you basically are calling the people that try to do it right, or at least by what we consider law, idiots for doing it that way. Maybe they are, because maybe they should have known. But I don't think they are. I think they were just trying to do it the right way and got played by our system that plays us every day. But if we stand together as communities and people and understand that diversity can be beautiful as long as no one's forcing it upon you, forcing a lifestyle upon you. You get to live your life as you choose. No one can use force against you or coerce you to give them money. So it's one of those things that I think it's an evolution of the way people think. And it's evolution at where society stands. It's not really evolution on the theory of liberty. It's been talked about and debated, and really there's pretty good consensus on what liberty and freedom means. It's about how far can we achieve of getting there, and I think that depends on how many people are willing to open up to the concept of liberty, not needing some government to control the society. Because in reality, do they really control society, or do they just profit off of society? Because other places have had government and change of government for thousands of years. America has had the U.S. government for a couple hundred years. Has any of it stopped theft? Has any of it stopped rape? Has any of it truly defended your property? There might be a couple instances. That's where good men stood up. But for the most part, government has turned into the very thing that the American government is supposed to be protecting against. That's life, liberty, and property. Your ability to pursue happiness. And there's a book that I urge people to go out there and read, if you haven't already. And it's The Law by Frederick Bastiat. Bastiat. Read that book, and you will understand that this is not a new idea. This was predicted. And Frederick Bastiat basically lines it out for you. And that's why we have to educate the youth that are basically being miseducated, lied to by our public school systems, definitely. Homeschoolers are having to fear, having social services come in. I read a story about that. And it was basically about how social services use the excuse of a possible messy house and law enforcement going along with it and forcing their way into a homeschooler's home and taking the kids until the judge threw out the case because of warrantless entry. This happens multiple times, but the problem is it happening? Not, is the court doing anything about it? Well, yeah, the court, threw out the case, but the kids have already been exposed to that. And rightfully so. They'll probably be traumatized into not trusting them. There's already kids being traumatized by these active shooter drills in public schools. Government is terrorizing the populace. And it really, really needs to stop. And that's why I say, don't if you live in the city, don't worry about your city cop. You can't vote for them. You need to really find a sheriff that's willing to stand up against the city police force. And there's been instances where the sheriff has dedeputized the entire city force because of corruption. So it can happen. But you have to really know who you're putting into office and how far they're willing to go stand up for your rights. Will they be easily threatened? So, it's one of those things we hope to see more of it. And if we do, I think we have a chance of seeing freedom without some violent revolution. Because I think a violent revolution will end in a lot of pain and sorrow and won't achieve much. I think that's what the elites want, is something violent. Because then you guys will fight each other, kill each other, and then they'll put in a new system of government to control who's left. Someone's asking in the chat if I had a link to the kid. I did. I'll try to find it before I close out the chat room tonight. Hopefully I can find it. But I will definitely look for it there. It's one of those things that if we're willing to stand up for our rights, we have a chance. But if we keep laying down, they will crash us. And again, I think they're headed that direction. Definitely stay tuned here on UCY.tv. Lot of great broadcasts coming up, and some more this weekend. 24-hour network. We always have something great playing here. And shout out to Jules for all the hard work she's done with the network. Again, I'm trying to work on these projects. I'm trying to get them going. I'm just waiting for some things. I got one thing, I guess, got straightened out, so I got one piece of equipment in during the broadcast, actually. So we're getting there. Once I get everything set up, before I even get the project done, I'll give you guys a sneak peek on it. And I might try to set up some type of donation thing, because if I continue to do it and grow it, I'm going to need some help doing some of this, so I might have to pay some people for some production work. To the Anon in the chat, I haven't found it yet, but I'll keep looking for it. Yeah, I still haven't found it yet, but I'll try to get that to you in the chat room. And we are coming up to the end of the broadcast. I got information from libertyviral.com, benswan.com, wearechange.org. Telegraph, and that's out of the UK, .co.uk, I believe. And one final thing before we go, something I told you about last broadcast. I played a clip and told you that the one guy was a provocateur, and apparently he has been kicked out of the group and has been exposed. So that's a good thing to hear. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, and I'll catch you next week, Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, here on UCY.tv. Stay tuned.
All night, I waste my time.